want to clear up a little discrepancy because we've been talking a lot about how we're going to fund things in the state. Mr. Visconti says, and some nonpartisan observers say, there are going to be very large deficits in the next few years. Governor, you've said that there will not be those deficits. How can you account for the disparity between these nonpartisan projections and your own projections?
Because we're not going to increase spending at a 7.8% rate. We're just not going to do that. And over the past few years, I've been able to run the state government with spending increases less than half of my predecessors. That's what we've done. And we've made timely investments in technology that will allow us to lower our costs.
Mr. Visconti?
Governor, $4.8 billion in the next 3 years. If you don't increase that, what programs go the way of the bus way to nowhere? What happens? What happens with $4.8 billion?
Please hold your applause.
We have to cut education. We can't do infrastructure. I mean, if you think about it objectively, forget Democrat, Republican, the governor, Tom, just take a look at the math. Go to my website, joe4ct.com, and you will go to the Office of Fiscal Analysis. That is a department in the General Assembly that puts out the numbers. The governor also, there's a table of contents where he puts out his projections. He shows $1.5 billion. But they show $4.8 billion, and I don't want to argue about it. It's there in black and white. What I want to ask is, what do we do with all the spending for everything we need in this state when we have these tidal waves coming? And this is built in with a projection, I believe, of $300 million per year of revenue growth. If we don't grow out of this recession that we're still stuck in, what do we do about that? And again, this is not to blame the governor. These are the fiscal realities that we're dealing with. And on this stage, we need to talk about them because all the other issues don't matter if there's no money for them.
Mr. Foley, would you like to address the deficits in the coming years and how you think that you would deal with them?
This is actually very simple. While Governor Malloy has been governor, spending has gone up over $3 billion. So the $1.8 billion tax increase he put on you has been squandered. It's gone up 16% in spending. Now, he says that he's increased 2.8%. I say it's 4.5%. Whatever it is, if you increase the spending next year by 2.8%, which he's proud of doing, says that he's held things back, he's going to have to raise your taxes. There's no question about it. There's no other way the math works. He's going to have to raise your taxes. The only way you get rid of the deficit without raising people's taxes is by holding spending flat. And this governor has not made that commitment. I have.
But Mr. Foley, if you hold spending flat and then, as you've promised, cut the sales tax rate, won't that put a hole in the deficit?
Well, there are areas where we can save money. We can save money on corporate welfare. I've talked about the opportunity to save money on reducing the cost of delivering health care services in Connecticut. It's about 35% of the state budget. So we can reduce the cost of treating a heart attack from $100,000 to $95,000 by working with health care providers. Everybody benefits, and that will stimulate the economy and get this stagnant economy moving in the right direction.
Mr. Visconti, I'll just tell the candidates that we may be able to add an extra minute to each person's time.
$4.8 billion, Tom, you said you will not ask for union concessions. You will not cut spending. How would you get rid of $4.8 billion? Where's your magic wand? How do you do that? It's $4.8 billion, and if it's not, prove it, it's not.
Mr. Foley, do you have a response?
It's actually not $4.8 billion. The government makes a projection of what it's going to cost to run the government next year, providing the same services.
The same services.
And they run the numbers up because they know their budgets are going to be based on that. But those budgets are as the governor said, it's about 7.5% this year. So we clearly don't have to spend 7.5%. But this governor spent 4.5%, and if he stays at that level, he's going to have to raise everybody's taxes.
Governor?
So let me remind everybody what Tom said on this stage 4 years ago. He was going to settle a $3.6 billion deficit by cutting spending by $2 billion. We don't have to reform education to understand that that doesn't work. The reality is, if he had done that, we would have lost 36,000 jobs in the state of Connecticut. You don't have to take my word for it. That was analyzed by the University of Connecticut before the election was had. What we have done, what Tom says he's going to do, we've already done. That's how we held spending down. But Tom won't tell you that Republicans built in holes into this budget that we inherited, Nancy and I. I didn't run the truck into the ditch. I didn't serve in state government. I got hired to straighten it out. And that's exactly what we've done. There were $0 in the rainy day fund. $0. Every dollar, $1.7 billion had been spent in 2 years. Today, as I stand before you, there's $520 million in the rainy day fund. That is a start. It's not a finish. But what we're seeing is real economic growth in the state of Connecticut. Tom throws figures out that, quite frankly, are either made up or misread by him. In the last 2 quarters of 2013, Connecticut's economy grew more rapidly than any other state in New England. And this first portion of the year, we saw more private investment in startups in the state of Connecticut, $300 million worth, at any time in years and years and years. We're getting stronger.
So as to even up Tom a bit, Mr. Visconti, would you like to jump in on this?
Very quickly. We
Please.
borrowed the money. We borrowed the surplus. We took money off our budget. We borrowed operating dollars and bonded them, and that's why Fitch Reporting Services this July said we're still negative outlook. We could lose our credit rating, especially with the tidal waves of deficits that are coming. If we lose our credit rating or it gets downgraded, right now we are spending 11% of our budget on debt service. If you look at the math and forget the politics and look at it, what do we all do on the stage if we put our heads together to get out of this? We're going to have to cut spending. We're going to have to prune back budget. We need help from the unions. We need help from everybody. And again, the unions is not your fault, but we need your help to secure your pension futures.
Paul Schreiner, I'm going to give you a question quickly to Mr. Foley.
Can I respond just briefly to
Just
one
very
second?
quickly.
The governor makes it sound like everything's fine. He says he didn't run the truck into the ditch. We have had 1% growth over 3.5 years. Sir, you did run this economy into the ditch. You've broken the state. Heather and I are going to fix it. And you don't have solutions. You're simply not talking about how are you going to solve Connecticut's problems. I think most people feel we have some serious problems that need to be addressed.
Tom, I'll tell you what I didn't do. I didn't do what you did. I didn't lose 3,000 jobs in a company that I owned. I didn't move jobs to Mexico.
Please.
I didn't move jobs to Mexico. I don't own a $10 million house and a $5 million boat and a $1 million plane and not pay taxes in the state of Connecticut. That's not who I am, Tom.
Please. Paul, a question for Tom Foley.